Hi, everyone. I'm James Protin. I'd like to give a special thank you to our sponsors for the podcast. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. It's great to be back after Nick's hiatus. Some of us associated with the podcast team get vacations, others don't, but that's okay. We're not going to hold any grudges. So we're back, and we're here with episode number 37, and our guest is somebody that I've been looking forward to sitting down with for some time now, Jim Shorkey Jr. Jim Shorkey Jr. is the retired former owner of the Jim Shorkey Auto Group. And Mr. Shorkey, welcome to the podcast. I'm happy you could make it. Yeah, I'm so grateful. I've been looking forward to talking to you for some time.
Yep.
Me
too, by the way. I'm so happy to be here.
On Facebook, and I love what you're doing with your results from thinking and things like that. But I want to say something to you when we first start. I want to say, what a great day. See, I'm old enough to remember that, right? Yeah. There was a time when I could not get in the car and turn on the radio without hearing that.
Yeah.
And what was the guy's name that did that?
That's Frank Marmion.
Okay. Yeah. Because he had that voice. That
but
guy had that voice.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you want to hear the story of What a Great Day?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm fascinated by that. Because like I said, that was a thing.
That was a thing. Yeah. So what happened was I had gotten into self-development in March 1st, 1993. I remember the day very well. I won't go into those details, but I got into self-development. And like the way that Jim Shorkey, this cat right here, operates, it's all or nothing, right? So I'm into this, and I'm full blast listening to...
You're definitely an all-in dude. There's no doubt about that.
All-in dude, yeah. Listening to Napoleon Hill and Zig Ziglar and Wayne Dyer and Og Mandino and Brian Tracy. I could give you 100 of them, right? Listening to these girls and guys and really reading the books and all that. And so Zig Ziglar in particular said, you got to have a different way to introduce yourself, a different way to answer the phone. And so he talked about something around greatness, and I got this idea of, what a great day. And so I started answering the phone that way. I already had to distinguish myself from my father. My father's Jim Shorkey. He's not senior, but that's how we distinguish. So he would be senior, I'm junior.
Sure,
my birth name is James Ronald Shorkey Jr. So anyways, I would answer the phone. What a great day. This is Jim Shorkey Jr. speaking. And so I did that for years and years and years and years. And my father died very suddenly on March 24th, 1996. And that left me in charge of the business, right? So that said, I had some financial challenges, to say the least. And as part of that challenge, I had to do a major cutback. So Frank Marmion was actually my father's advertising agent. So
really?
Oh yeah. So you wouldn't remember this, but they used to have, like, for example, they had an Irish cop would come into the dealership and I'm looking for Jim Shorkey. Jim Shorkey, I heard you're giving cars away down here. It's this kind of thing.
I remember that stuff. I do. I mean, that was a great campaign.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, the Irish cop and just different characters they come up with.
Yeah,
the guy's name, he escapes me, that did those voices. He actually was that's what they did. They were actors. It was he and his significant other, I guess you would say. But anyways, that's what they did. And so my dad died and financial difficulty. So I had to say to Frank, I can't keep you on as an agent. So we're done. So I was doing my own thing. And I took on Suzuki in 2003, and I was doing a lot of different advertising with that, but it was all stuff that I was creating with somebody else, and decided I didn't want to go that direction anymore. So I called Frank and I said, Frank, would you be interested in working with me again? And of course he was. He came in and he had this proposal, and he said, hey, he does his research just like you have. He says, I always liked the way you answered the phone. He says, I think we can turn that into an advertising approach. And so he had the What a Great Day symbol that you see. It was a circle and it was slanted. Yeah. And we bought a jingle. I'll never forget it, for $5,000. I didn't have the money, but I did it. $5,000. And I said to Frank, I said, listen, I'm a car salesman. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an advertising guy. You're the advertising guy. I said, so if this works, we'll keep doing it. Well, that's where it came from. So, and what happened was, because of my state of busyness at that time, this was 2003, and the way I was a little camera shy, a little, that stuff gave me at that time nervousness, anxiety, whatever. So Frank elected to do this whole commercial over the phone. So those were actually done over the phone. And
Is that right?
Actually, yeah, it was.
I
actually,
know that was the concept, but I didn't know you actually did it on the phone.
Absolutely, yeah, because they wanted that sound.
Yeah,
right. So it was actually
it was distinctive.
Yeah. So it was actually, I would answer the phone. What a great day! This is Jim Shorkey speaking. And Frank would say, Jim Shorkey, I heard you just bought 450 new Suzukis.
Right.
What the heck's going on out there? And oh yeah, Frank. And so we're selling them for this, and that was the banter. And so what would happen is it was a slick deal. So this is back in the days of fax machines, right?
Sure.
So I would be like we're right now. I'd be talking to somebody, working the deal, working this, doing it, and my sister would hand me the commercial, and so she would hand it to me, and I would look at it and say, Frank's on line 1. That was it. That was really kind of extemporaneous per se.
Wow.
Versus rehearsed, right?
Yeah.
So I look at the thing. Hold on, Jamie. I got to go do this commercial. And I got so good at it, like 5 minutes later, I'm done.
Yes.
So I pick up the phone. What a great day. We had to do some retakes because, you stumble and whatnot.
Sure.
But that was how that happened. And so if it works, we'll keep doing it. Well, it always worked. And that became the genesis of What a Great Day.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you guys did that? It's been a while.
Well, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it?
Yeah, so the kids do it now, and they've changed it. What a Great Day is the company moniker, but now they have added to it Your Deal, Your Way. And so if you look, you'll see it, and it's What a Great Day, and it's Your Deal, Your Way, What a Great Day. Nice. And so it's still there. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great story.
No, I know. As far as what was the first brand that you that the Shorkey Auto Group represented? What was your first brand?
So first brand was in 1960, and it was Oldsmobile, and it was actually Carlson Oldsmobile. My dad was the original general manager of the store.
Okay.
And went on from there to buy into the business. We took on Jeep shortly thereafter, so it was Carlson Oldsmobile Jeep. Mr. Carlson was the owner, along with Mr. Hamilton, and then my dad and mom bought into the business a little bit, and a little more, and in 1974 they bought out Mr. Hamilton, and over a short period of time, it was my dad and mom owned 50% and Mr. Hamilton owned 50%. Okay. And then in right around 1986, my dad and I bought out Mr. Hamilton. So when my dad died, I owned, my wife and I should say, owned 24% of the company, and my dad and mom owned 76%. And then after that, I bought out my mom, and then I bought out my brothers and sisters who were in the business. I actually ended up, at that point, I had 51% of the company. They had 49%. And then over a period of time, over the years, excuse me, I bought them out as well.
Okay.
So when I got out of the business, I did own 100% of the business. But it was so I didn't really answer your question. So it was Oldsmobile Jeep, and then it became in '74 Courtesy Oldsmobile Jeep.
I remember it, sure.
Right, and then Oldsmobile decided to no longer be in the business. Okay, and you probably don't remember that, but that would have been 1999.
I remember when they went, because I remember there was an Oldsmobile dealer in my hometown, Sedney Oldsmobile. Bob Sedney Oldsmobile. Yeah.
Good man.
Good guy. Good family. I was friends with the boys. Good family.
Oh, man. Red hair, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Good guy. Yeah. He's a good friend. Yeah. I don't know if Bob's still around. I haven't talked to him.
I don't think he is. I know the dealership went away a good while ago, but I think Mr. Sedney's been gone a while.
Yeah, but Bob was the son.
Bob's still around.
Yeah. I would think he's my age. I would think.
Yeah, he's around. Yeah, he's around. Right. Yep.
So anyway, so after my dad died, and then Oldsmobile happened, I took on Daewoo, which turned out to be a categorical mistake. They ended up going bankrupt. I'm the king of lost franchises. So took on Daewoo, took on Isuzu.
Okay.
Took on, and then the crowning moment was Suzuki. I actually bought Suzuki from Rob Cochran, and at that time, we were selling roughly 130 Oldsmobiles a year. Took on Suzuki. It was a shot, right?
Yeah.
And Oldsmobile was gone, but we were still servicing them, right? So I take on Suzuki. And at that time, we were selling, again, roughly 130, 140 Oldsmobiles a year into the sell down. We took Suzuki to 1,300 a year.
Wow,
and
nice.
It was big. Yeah, we were
nice.
we were one of the top 5 Suzuki dealerships in the country. And then from Suzuki, it went on to obviously additional franchises. When I left, it was we had 6 dealerships, and now it's 17. The kids have literally they're knocking out of the park. Yeah, 17.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, they operate in Georgia, they operate in Ohio.
I did see that. Yeah,
in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Yep. So
does that answer your question? That is very cool. It does answer the question. That's interesting, because I've always wondered how that actually worked, because you see one dealer like C. Harper.
Yeah,
like Casey Harper. He's got like 1,000 different brands.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems like he sells every car that's made. every brand of car, and he may,
yeah,
right?
Close to
so
it,
that was always fascinating to me, that you can literally go to one lot and compare 4 or 5 different brands that they're similar, and instead of driving all over the place. But that's fascinating. So now you came from, and I really am interested in your business philosophy. Talked about what a great day, but failure has been as big a part of your business journey as success. And actually, I think unless I'm missing the mark, kind of led to your success.
Correct.
You had to fail first because you were on the brink of bankruptcy with the company, and you brought that back, and you've attributed a lot of that success to Napoleon Hill, to Think and Grow Rich.
Absolutely,
right? You have. By last count, what I saw, you've read that book over 140 times.
146 times. Yeah.
146 times. So 146 times. Tell me what led you to that particular book in the first place, and how did that have that kind of an impact when you had a business that was a mature business at that point? It wasn't like it was a brand new, like it was just a little startup that you stumbled over. This was a mature business, okay, that had seen success and was on the brink of bankruptcy, by your own words, but you pulled that back and to the success that there is today with your children moving forward.
Yeah. So first of all, it's a very emotional issue. So you can probably see a little glassiness in my eyes, and I have this massive chill going through my body right now because it is a very emotional scenario. And so my dad died on March 24th, 1996. And so fix that date in your brain. And I often say, if I knew half as much as I thought I knew when my father died, I would have been pretty darn smart.
Here you go.
The fact is, I had no clue, but I was arrogant. Okay. And so I proceeded to run the business my way. I did not want any advice. People tried to give me advice, didn't want it. I knew what I was doing. I was an expert. And so I proceeded to run the business my way. I wanted to make it the biggest that it had ever been, show my dad how good I was and this kind of a thing. And so 2 years later, I ended up bankruptcy imminent. 2 months at the end of the money. I get a phone call from my sister tomorrow morning when we open up the dealership. The bank account's going to be a negative $55,000, meaning checks are going to bounce. And I was devastated. I was sad. I was devastated. I was really, really sad. One of the saddest moments of my life. And so I believe
that's a call that would get your attention.
Exactly, yeah. So I believe that we need to meet our problems, our adversity head on, like, man, nail it right in the head. So needless to say, I didn't sleep that night. And I get up the next morning. I'm at the bank before they open. I got a hold of Al Azar, who was my guy at the bank, and known Al. I went to school with Al. I know Al very well, good friend. But we also had been in a banking relationship. My dad, my dad, way back when, 1960, right? Was Irwin Bank and Trust, and now it's called S&T Bank. But nevertheless. Sure. And I don't know if it was S&T Bank at the time. I think it was, but that's neither here nor there. So I meet Al at the doorstep. He brings me in. I tell him what happened. And he assured me that the checks wouldn't bounce, which was my biggest concern. And in my mind's eye, these checks were my dad's checks. I couldn't let this be his legacy. I couldn't let bankruptcy imminent be his legacy. I couldn't let bounce checks. I mean, that's just not how we roll. So Al assured me that the checks would not bounce. And I borrowed $100,000 to get the business floating again, and I had to go to work. And so that's what I did. And so at that time, I was reading Think and Grow Rich. I got involved with self-development, as I said earlier, on March 1st, 1993. But what I was doing was first of all, Think and Grow Rich. If you're into the personal development space, Think and Grow Rich is one of these books that just keeps coming up. You got to read this book. You got to read this book. Everybody talks about this book.
Yes.
It's the keystone kind of book in the self-development field. Written in 1937, Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 of the wealthiest people in America over a 25-year stretch.
During the Depression. During the Great Depression.
Well, actually, the book was written during the Depression. The research was done from 1900 roughly to 1925.
Really?
And he actually wrote a book called The Law of Success, which was kind of a correspondence course, which I've also done that. The book's this thick. It's really interesting. It's called The Law of Success.
Okay.
He wrote Think and Grow Rich in 1937 as sort of a consolidated version of The Law of Success. And so it was actually written in 1937 during the Great Depression. The research was done way before that.
Okay.
But that said, he wanted to have a methodology for people to make money. Remember, this was the height of the Great Depression. People didn't have money. And so he wanted to give them some way to make money. So, okay. So anyways, so because I'm in the self-development space, you got to read this book. So I'm reading the book, but guess what? I'm not executing the book. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to actually do it.
Right.
Faith without deeds is dead, right?
Exactly.
So I have to be in action, and I wasn't in action. I'm now bankruptcy imminent. I get the book in my hand. This is the book, but I'm not doing what Napoleon Hill tells me to do. So I had a personal conversation with Napoleon Hill. Now, granted, he's deceased at this point, but I still talk to him, right? And I said, Napoleon Hill.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's seriously, I do, because there's a lot to be said for having those types of conversations.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? You can read a lot, right? But when you take it off the page, and have that conversation,
yes,
I'm right with you on that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. So anyways, so I I'm bankruptcy imminent. I'm not doing what Napoleon Hill tells me to do. And my thought was like, who the heck am I? Like, Jim, you're bankruptcy imminent. This advice comes from Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest people in history. Thomas Edison, he invented the light bulb. What did you invent, Jim? I never invented nothing. I'm a car salesman.
You're
what
a salesman.
Right? I don't know
exactly
anything, right? So I made a promise to Napoleon Hill. I said, if you get me out of this mess, bankruptcy imminent, I will do exactly what you tell me to do. All right?
Okay.
So just park that thought in your brain, right? So I committed to doing exactly what he tells me to do. And so I start dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And there's a lot of things in that book that you're being told to do. And one of the things he tells you to do, and I'm getting to the 146, is he tells you in the chapter on imagination to read this book 3 times before you put it down, because then you're not going to want to stop. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do exactly that. And I had already read it, but I'm into this thing, right? So I read it first time, second time, third time.
Good notes? You take notes as you went through?
You can't believe it. You can't believe it. I should have brought my book. Yeah, I've retired probably 20 of these books because they get so marked up and highlighted.
Yeah.
And anyways, so I'm reading a book. Now I'm in gear, right? I'm bankruptcy imminent, all right? This can't happen. This is not going to happen. So I'm doing exactly what Napoleon tells me to do. And in a chapter on imagination, he says, read a book 3 times because then you're not going to want to stop. Well, as I'm reading it and I'm doing what he tells me to do, that needle, which is flatline, no pulse, starts to bump a little bit, right? I keep reading, starts to bump a little more. I keep reading. And so, and acting, it's not just reading. Okay, so there's a lot of action, which we probably won't have time to get into today, but maybe we will, but a lot of action. So I'm into action, I'm reading, I'm into action. And I get to the 3rd reading, and I remember that now, because then you're not going to stop. Well, I'm starting to get some money in the bank again. Things are starting to work. It's like, well, I don't want to stop, so I kept reading, right? And it kept working, and I kept reading, and kept working, kept doing actions, kept working. Right. And so then I got to the point where, so first of all, I read it from a point of view of desperation, bankruptcy imminent.
Okay.
Then I read it from a point of view of superstition. I'm afraid, like, I don't want to jinx myself. This is working. So I kept reading it. And then I really dwelled on, I don't want to go back to that. I kept a very clear image in my brain of bankruptcy imminent, that morning on the steps in Irwin and meeting Al-Azhar, and how embarrassing it was, and how sad that was, and all that. It was like, I'm not going back there. So I kept reading and I kept reading it. And that, hence today, I haven't read it for the 146th time. I'm reading it for the 146th time, but I want you to think about something. So the hand that picks up the book is not the same hand that puts the book down. Okay. It's a different hand. And so that different hand picks up the book again, reads the book, and what I'll find, like on 146, I'll be reading something in the book, and it's like, man, I don't remember ever reading this. And I've read this book 146 times, and I'm like, I don't remember reading this
finding
before.
Finding something new,
yeah. So when you say, is it noted up and highlighted and everything? Yeah, I'm actually reading it right now from the perspective, I have a friend of mine I'm working with who wants to know exactly how I did what I did. And so I'm reading it from his perspective and trying to get in his head.
Sure.
And so I've got a brand new book and a highlighter, and say, well, how does this apply to my friend? So it's a different reading. But the hand that picked up that book and reading it from the point of view of James would be a different hand when I put it down, right? And so I just keep going. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes perfect sense. And I've heard you say that before about the hand. I mean, and that's a great visual, right? When you think about that, because you pick the book up and you put the book down, and the action that comes out of that. Like, when you were standing on those steps, when you had to go and talk to your friend, in hat in hand, basically, so to speak, you had to have this giant knot in your chest.
Oh man,
right?
Sick.
How long did it take for that knot to go away? Once that needle started to move, how long was it?
It never went away. It doesn't go away.
See, and I knew you were going to say that. I was hoping you were going to say that because that is what drives the action. That's what drove the action. You can read all the words you want to read, right? But until you get up and walk out that door, the book's not going to make you get up and take action. Right. What's going to make you take action and take those words off the page is that knot right there.
Right. Yeah. So you asked about that. In our space called self-development, the space that you and I are both in right now, we're talking about self-improvement, right?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so there's a common jargon, and I call it jargon loosely, is that you never talk about what you don't want. And I think it's a categorical mistake that we are preaching into people. I don't agree with it. I think that, for example, if I'm a smoker, I want to study emphysema, lung cancer, COPD. I want to study these things, okay? Because they scare the crap out of me, and that's what's going to motivate me to quit smoking, perhaps.
You have to understand cause and effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. You have to. I mean, that's got to be a part of your overall process.
Yeah. So I weigh myself every day. This is not off the subject. So I weigh myself every day. Why? Because, I weigh myself this morning, 158.2, I think. I want to be between 158 and 160. And as that scale goes to 170, it's like, hey, you know what? This isn't going the right direction. So in that regard, am I motivated by positivity or negativity? Mm-hmm. It's negative, right? So I'm motivated by negative. And I believe in my heart of hearts that a negative situation is way more motivating than a positive situation. I really believe that. But here's the deal. And I want you to really think about this. You can do both.
Absolutely.
So here's where you want to be, right?
That's exactly right.
That's the goal.
Yep.
And here's where you don't want to be. And that's the anti-goal. So why don't we run away from what we don't want, right? That'd be one part of it. And then why don't we run towards what we do want? Okay, and then why don't we do both?
Well, you're doing it by just naturally, right? If you're running towards something, you're running away from something.
Exactly, but
do you know what I mean? I get what you're saying.
But from one point of view of if you were think about it, if you were running from a tiger, okay, and you're trying to, good luck with that, by the way. But let's just a good analogy. So you're running from a tiger, and it would be one version, right? So you're running from a tiger. You're about to die.
Sure.
And you're running towards this person that you love with all your heart and soul. When are you going to run faster? Truly, if you think about it.
That's very true.
I'm going to run faster because if I die, there is no more love. So I'm going to run faster from the tiger than I am towards the person I love. But that said, why can't I do both? Run to the tiger, run from the tiger, run to the love.
Run to the love.
So I want the negativity in there, and I want to dwell on it because that is what's going to cause me to really kick some butt.
I saw something this morning, and it's probably gonna be in my blog in the morning. But basically, the quote was, "Sometimes deciding who you are means deciding who you'll never be again."
There you go.
Right.
I'm with
something
you.
That is pretty much what you're saying there, right? So my story is very colorful, right? And I had my issues in a long time, but not ever wanting to go back there. Okay, not ever wanting to be that person again is what drives me forward toward that person that I want to be.
Yep.
Right? So I'm closer to that person now than I've ever been in my life, but I'm still not there.
Me neither.
That's the way, exactly.
You'll never get there.
No,
because there's always going to be another I
could
do this better. But read the quote again. I want just read it to me one more time, please, if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Great quote.
Sometimes deciding who you are means deciding who you'll never be again.
Okay, sometimes deciding who you are means deciding you're never gonna be bankruptcy imminent again.
Exactly.
Never. It ain't happening. It makes me sick to my stomach right now to think about that. That was awful. My dad ran this business for 22 years. 2 years after he died, Mr. Smart Alec, Mr. Arrogant, is bankruptcy imminent. You talk about embarrassing.
You crashed it. You drove it into a wall.
I crashed into the wall. That's exactly right.
Well,
I never want to go back to that.
But at the end of the day, you failed forward.
I did.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about that concept, because a lot of people, you say failing forward, people have a fear of failure. Everybody's afraid of it, right? And when we shouldn't be. We should be embracing it, because failure is in the critical path to success.
Well, let me disagree with you on that. Okay. I don't think we should embrace failure at all. I really don't. I think we should embrace success. But when failure happens, we need to understand that that's part of the deal. setbacks are part of the deal.
Part of the deal.
Part of the deal.
Part of the success.
When we have the setback, then we want to embrace it and say, okay, what can I do to change this setback? What can I do to improve it, to never have it happen again?
Learn the lesson.
Learn a lesson from it. But
right.
I don't want to enter into any transaction with the idea in mind of failing, other than taking the proper precautions in terms of like, if I'm going to start a new business, do I have enough working capital? How's my debt to income ratio? All these things. So there's, I want to prepare for that. Like if it's going to rain today, probably should take an umbrella. That's not negative. That's positive. But at the end of the day, I don't want to embrace failure. I want to acknowledge it. I don't want to get beat up by it. And I'm gonna do what I can to get away from it. And it's interesting, like if you think
acknowledge is a much better. See, now that's a much better word. I appreciate that. Acknowledge is similar, but that's a much better description, right? Yeah. So you acknowledge the failure and embrace the lesson. So you drill down.
But also when you do fail, the one thing about failure, again back to embracing it. Again, I don't want to go for failure by any stretch, but I do have failure. It's there, okay? And so the internal locus of control means everything is my fault. So the failure becomes my fault. I own it, and then
you're accountable. It's
exactly,
on you.
Absolutely.
It's on your shoulders.
And interestingly enough, so one thing about failure is I do know one way that doesn't work. So I learned that. So this doesn't work. So I have to execute what is called a pivot, P-I-V-O-T. So I've had this situation. It didn't work. I failed. So how I get myself to pivot is I seek expert counsel. Right out of the book, Think and Grow Rich. I seek expert counsel. I find somebody who is smarter than I am, which is virtually everybody in the world. So I would go to a guy like Mr. Hamilton, right? And he was a very successful car dealer. And I would say, Mr. Hamilton, here's where I'm at. Here's what I did. And what do you think about this? He said, Jim, he called me James. James, man, that's a bad idea. You need to stop that. That's not good. And here's what you should have been doing.
Right.
Oh, crap. I see now. Okay. So I go back and I do what Mr. Hamilton tells me to do, which is these three things. So 1, 2, 3. And I take that's the pivot, the three things.
Yeah.
So I move off the failure into the three things, and I turn that failure into a success by executing a pivot. And so I can give you just countless times that I've done that. And so recessions, I don't mean to make fun of recessions or things like that, but they're such opportunities.
Absolutely.
Such opportunities. Why? Because 95% of the people who get involved, same business, right? 95% of the coffee shops who go through a recession, they just give up. They go home. They pull it in. Not me. I get into a recession and I'm saying, wait a second. What can I do? The recession's out there. So it's not my fault, but I make it my fault. So what can I do to deal with this recession in a special way? I seek expert counsel. What are you guys doing? Start reading books about recessions, articles, whatever. And it's like, holy crap, here's some ideas. Put the ideas into a list. I call it my to-do list.
Sure.
Put some ideas into they say, well, here, do this stuff. This is the pivot, right? Do this stuff. Oh, guess what? Stop doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And so and that's what I did. That's what
you gotta have both those lists.
You do. Yeah.
Because if you don't know what brought you down here, okay, you don't have that list of things that again cause and effect, right? If you don't have that list of things that brought you there, you're not going to be able to populate the list of where you want to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, again, remember, this person's smarter than you.
Exactly.
And by the way, that said, when you're in these groups and organizations and stuff like that, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
In the wrong room. Wrong room. My dad always told me.
Unless you want to be a mentor. So if you want to be a mentor, then you really do need to be the smartest guy in the room, smartest guy in the room. But so expert counsel, when you get expert counsel, they'll say, well, here's what you should be doing. And you look at that list, you say, geez, I'm not doing any of that stuff. And then he says, well, here's what you got to stop doing. It's like, crap, I'm doing, there's 10 things to do. I'm not doing any. There's 10 things to stop doing. Heck, I'm doing 5 of those things. So you execute the stop list, execute the to-do list, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, what happened here?
Exactly.
And the recession is strictly, it's an opportunity to make the pivot, to make the changes, and holy cow. So I can if you're the boss, but if you want to talk about recessions, I'm an expert on recessions.
Yeah, let's talk about recession for a minute, because I'm one that believes that you invest during a recession, that you you go out there, you look, like you said, you seek that expert counsel, you look at opportunities, because recession is an opportunity, because everybody around, your competitors, for the most part, are likely to be, again, pulling back. So that's an opportunity for you to jump ahead.
Exactly. And you know, it's so back in 2008, when President Obama was president of the United States, that 2008, 2009 was the biggest recession since the Great Depression. This was a really big deal. In the automobile business, we were selling, as an industry, 16 million new cars a year. 2008, that dropped down to 10 million, right? So 6 million people went away. And so I did a lot of thinking and studying and expert counsel, and I figured out, you know, that I needed to do something different in response to the Great Recession. And so I executed what was called the Prosperity Plan. And interesting, those choice of words. And the subtitle of that Prosperity Plan was, "When Nature Hands You Lemons, You Got to Make Lemonade." And so I made it a goal. I said to my guys, I said to my team, my management team, excuse me. I said, guys, I can lose this much money. My son was the CFO at the time. I said, you know, how much money? I said, if I was going to lose this much money, it was a big number, right? Are we going to be okay? Yep, we'll be fine. So I said, I can lose this much money. I'd rather lose half that, and I'd rather lose I'd rather lose 10% of that. So it was the big number, half that number, and then 10% of that big number. But I said, ideally, I'd like to break even and maybe make a little bit of money. And so I entered into this mentality of being prepared to lose money. Doesn't that sound strange? Like,
it does.
I'm prepared
it's counterintuitive.
To lose money,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, though. I would rather make my business better during the Great Recession than pull in, right? So I went into a very aggressive training program. I said to my team, I said, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be on my team going forward, we are going to train more than we've ever trained before. So we're going to be so I wanted to come out of the recession with the best team I ever had. I said to them, I said, I'm not going to lay anybody off. I'm actually going to try to hire some people, because maybe some people get laid off elsewhere. So we'll try to make the team bigger, but we're going to train. That was a big focus. Secondly, we're going to treat our customers better than we ever have before. I knew intuitively that what happens when people cut back, they start kind of jerking the customers around. We're not going to do that. We had people come to the dealership that had bought a car elsewhere that had a dent that had nothing to do with us. And my message to the team was, fix the dent, fix it, make them happy. And so customer service became very, very important. Attitude of gratitude, thank you note, follow-up, like emails and thank you notes, and getting in touch with our database, We upped our advertising, and that was an interesting story there in and of itself. So I decided I was going to get more aggressive with advertising. Well, in the meantime...
That's the first thing that gets cut.
Well, but hear this. So because everybody cut, where I was spending, just to pick a number, this means nothing. So I'm spending $50,000 a month on advertising. The number means nothing. And so I said, I'm going to up that to 75. Well, what happened with the advertising situation is the deals got much more reasonable. So where I was getting $50,000 worth of advertising, I increased that by 50% to 75, but I got twice as much advertising as I would have before, because there were deals. So now, instead of getting $50,000 worth of advertising, I'm getting $150,000 worth of advertising relative to what it was before. So I upped my advertising, I upped my inventory. I took a lot of cars. I wanted my stocking levels to be very high, and they were. And it was a 24-point plan. That was the to-do list, and also to not to enter. I never forget. I always remember one article I read, which I actually put in a plan: 5 foolish mistakes leaders make during a recession. Dave Anderson, who I knew personally, came to the dealership to train previously. So I had that article, put it in there, and one of them was they cut back on advertising, they cut back on training. It's like, well, that to not do, right? So I'm not going to do that. Anyways, enter into the plan, ready to lose a big number, prefer half that number, prefer 10% of that number, break even, make a little bit of money. We made more money in 2008 than the previous total years that we were in business previous to that, and went on to repeat that performance in 2009.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you, you couldn't.
I mean, that's a story in itself.
It is a story. Yeah. We couldn't get to all the customers. It was so busy that we brought people up from the shine department, people that clean cars, just to talk to the customers. My wife came in, my sister came in. And so we had people that weren't even salespeople that came in just to greet and, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah.
We're busy.
Just to acknowledge. Yeah.
Can you wait? I'll get the keys for that car, open that car. And so that kind of a thing. And so we just were so busy. One of the people that we pulled up, Dan Garber, is still selling cars at the dealership. He became a car salesman, a certified, trained salesperson.
Nice.
Absolutely, yeah. And so in his regard, it's like, are there opportunities during a recession? For him, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He ended up with a career. He makes very good money. Now, remember, he was cleaning cars. He was washing cars. And now he has a very, very nice career. He's been at it. Well, that was 2008. This is 2022. He's still doing it.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy.
That's amazing.
Isn't it amazing?
That's amazing. So during a negative period,
right,
where the entire country was experiencing that negativity, you not only grew your business, but you created opportunities for individual growth.
Absolutely.
Within the company.
Absolutely.
And now, you took a guy from washing cars, right? Just cleaning cars, doing detailing, which is a necessity. And it's a necessity.
Absolutely.
It's a good job, but you made that guy not only improved his life, but you improved your company because he became a very productive salesman.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that's a story that's a microcosm type story within the big picture.
Sure, right.
And but it's an indication like, so if we can do that one time, can we do that 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times in life, right?
Right.
So we have a negative situation, the Great Recession, biggest recession since the Great Depression, 1930s. And here we have this guy develops a new career. So was that same opportunity available during COVID? And again, this is not making fun of COVID or misdirecting it.
I get
but
you.
at the end of the day, my kids understood, and I'm out of the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they understood that there would be opportunities. And so they developed a new methodology of doing business to pivot into COVID. And once they got that methodology installed and figured out, they ended up doing very, very well. And then COVID kind of relaxed and cars were considered to be essential. So they could actually physically sell cars again. Mm-hmm. So the old way was come in, kick tires, open cars up, drive the cars, all that. That's the old way. The new way is the internet-based type thing where everything's negotiated online and blah, blah, blah. And so they developed the methodology to do that. But then there are people out there that still want to come in and kick tires and drive cars. And they couldn't do that during COVID.
Absolutely.
Well, now that business model has come back, but the internet model has stuck. So if you think about the pivot, because they pivoted, they have two methods of doing business today. The internet-based thing, whole staff around that, and then the people coming in, whole staff around that, and they are absolutely knocking it out of the park. I kid you not.
And the internet piece has opened up an opportunity for people who are not like you and I, who are not going to even consider being that guy in the showroom for those tire kickers, right? Just don't have that personality.
No.
There's a lot of people that just don't want to pick up the phone and cold call people. That's not for everybody.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But the internet can take that person and put them in a career that before that they never even would have thought about.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what's happened, yeah. And it's just very, very interesting to think about that word pivot, P-I-V-O-T.
Yeah.
And no matter what it is, you get bad news on the health front. Okay, so am I going to keep eating pizza, or am I going to start eating spinach? Am I going to keep eating donuts, or am I going to start eating kale? And so we have.
My wife told you to say that, huh?
I did not. But I mean, think about it.
But you're absolutely
you got
right.
bad news. You got bad news. You have this, right? And so that's not good news. We don't want that news. But guess what? Us Americans, we're getting this bad news all the time. Mm-hmm. But are we executing that pivot and turning that bad news into an opportunity to where we look back on and say, remember that bad news day, Jim? That was the best day of my life because I learned so much from the expert counsel of, here's the number. What do I do to lower the number?
Yep.
Here's my body mass index. All right. It's not good, Jim. It's not good. What do I do to fix it? Well, you need to do these 10 things.
Yes.
There's 10 things you need to stop doing. So I stopped doing the 10.
Yeah.
I start doing the good. I stop doing the bad 10. I start doing the good 10.
Right.
Day 1, day 2, month 1, like very little happens. Month 2,
takes time.
Very little happens. Month 3, it's like, I'm starting to see some traction here.
There you go.
Month 6, it's like, wow, look what I did. And so then we look back on it and say, that was the best thing that ever happened to me because now my BMI is where it should be. And you know what? I feel so much better. I'm a better person.
Yes.
I'm a better lover. I don't mean lover in a sexual sense, but I'm just, because I feel better, I can love better, right? So I'm just a better person because of the pivot. And so there is a possibility that I can look back on something that was very, very sad and very deleterious and say, you know what? It really was good that happened because it gave me that wake-up call. But unfortunately, in our country today, we're not taking personal responsibility.
Sure.
COVID certainly wasn't my fault, but my attitude was that it was. Now, I want to say that again. I didn't create COVID. I had nothing to do. I'm just a little guy, just a little car salesman from Western Pennsylvania. I'm no big deal. So COVID, in the true sense of the thing, was not my fault. But I took the attitude that it was my fault.
Yes.
And so what did I do? What was the pivot that I executed? I decided to go to work on my immune system. And we touched on that a little earlier.
Yep.
And so how do I strengthen my immune system? Well, I discovered these things called adaptogens, and I discovered these things called medicinal mushrooms. These are not psychedelic mushrooms. These are like chaga and reishi and maitake and shiitake and all these different medicinal mushrooms. And I started to put those in my body. And so did I have COVID? I did. Confirmed testing. It was, for me, and this is, again, I'm not making fun of people. I'm not. But for me, because I executed a pivot at the very beginning, and I looked at, I went to expert counsel. I probably read 5 books on improving my immunity. I'm on YouTube. I'm reading articles, blogs. Maybe you posted one. So I'm doing all this stuff like, wow, Jamie, that's a great idea. Let me put that in there. So instead of having 10, now I got 11, or instead of having 11, I got 12.
I do that all the time. Absolutely.
So I add another one in there.
Absolutely.
And I improve, in my mind at least. And it could, by the way, it could have been placebo. Who knows? But the fact is, I did what I did. I maintained, I worked on, so I have 4 basic pillars around immunity. One is sleep. I have to get the right amount of sleep.
You and I have discussed sleep. That was something you stressed to me when we had a conversation at your house.
Yeah.
Okay, you stressed sleep to me, and to that point, I had not given it really serious thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so you, in fact, inspired me to take more seriously the sleep, because I would think, if I go to bed at 9 o'clock, I get up at this time, I slept for 8. No, that's not necessarily the case. Sleep is not sleep, right? There's good sleep and there's bad or restless sleep, right? But until we had that conversation, I never thought of that. Expand on that, because that's fascinating to me.
Well, there's three different types of sleep. There's light sleep, REM sleep, rapid eye movement, and deep sleep. REM sleep is memory consolidation. Light sleep has advantages. I'm not sure specifically what they are because I focus on deep and REM. But so light sleep is just part of the deal. But deep sleep is restored. By the way, just to be clear, this is not medical advice. This is Jim Shorkey advice.
Sure.
It's
experience.
Don't do what I tell you to do. Okay?
It's from experience.
I'm a car salesman. This is what I do. So I focus on deep sleep. And I focus
we were just
on REM
selling
sleep.
mushrooms a few minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I focus on, deep sleep is the restorative sleep. Now think about that. If that's true, that means I'm fixing my body.
Right.
Okay. COVID-19, keep that in the back of your mind. So I'm fixing my body. REM sleep is rapid eye movement, which is the memory consolidation. So I'm fixing my brain, right? And the light sleep, I'm not sure the advantage. The fact is I'm going to get it anyway. So by focusing on my sleep, so again, pivot, P-I-V-O-T. So I go to expert counsel. What can I do to improve my sleep? Well, first of all, I have to have some way of measuring my sleep. Because what you can't measure, you can't improve or fix, right?
Right. There's got to be a baseline.
Right. I have 2 things here because remember, I'm goofy. I'm a nut, right? So I'm wearing an Oura ring, O-U-R-A.
Sure, I know.
Big believer in this. And this measures my sleep every single night. And then I also have, because, one thing's not enough. I got to have 2, right?
Absolutely.
So this here is a whoop strap, W-H-O-O-P. And so they both measure my sleep in particular, right? They also measure physical movement. There's other things they do. But for me, I was really worried about sleep. And there's another component, by the way, you're missing here, which I'll get to in a second. So anyways, I get up in the morning, I'm done sleeping, I look at my numbers, and I know exactly how I slept, right?
Okay.
I can tell exactly what my REM sleep is, what my deep sleep is. And these things are what I call inaccurately accurate. So they're not 100%, but they give you the same consistent readings every night so that they are comparative.
So it's consistent. So yeah.
So if I got 3 hours of deep sleep, does that mean I got 3 hours of deep sleep? Beats the heck out of me. I just know that I got 3 versus 2.5, or I know that I got 2 versus 1.5.
It helps you to create the baseline.
So I made it better.
Yeah.
So, but there's 2 components to this thing that I told you, which I'm surprised you're not bringing up the second one. Do you remember what it was?
No, I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to lie.
Stress.
Yes. There you go. There you go.
So if you don't fix your sleep and you don't fix your stress, again, this is not medical advice.
No,
but if I don't fix,
they're connected.
Oh, there's no question.
They're
if
connected.
I don't fix my sleep and I don't fix my stress, so bad sleep creates stress, stress creates bad sleep, right?
Yes.
And so when I'm in stress, it's called fight or flight,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
If I'm in fight or flight, what happens to my digestive system?
Oh, upside down.
What happens?
That's upside down. You
Just down.
Yeah.
You don't digest. So you're eating
it's just
broccoli, but you're not getting nutrients, because if you really are, if you're running from a tiger, what do you need nutrition for? You're trying to survive. So your body has this innate system of, no, it doesn't totally shut it down, but believe me, your digestive
it's not absorbing the nutrients at all, because you're fighting against it. You're literally fighting against your own body.
Well, it shuts it down because your body has to marshal all its energy towards your muscles. So all energy goes towards your muscles.
Sure.
Better oxygen to your lungs so that you can get away from this tiger. So what happens with stress is when you're stressed out, that puts you in fight or flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get into the opposite of fight or flight, or it's the autonomic nervous system, meaning it operates automatically. Again, not medical advice, but let's assume I'm right. So it operates automatically. So you're in fight or flight, digestion shuts down, immunity shuts down, by the way. Did you know that? What do you need an immune system for?
Yeah.
You're trying to get away from the tiger. So, fighting off infection and what, it doesn't matter, because you may not make it to tomorrow, right? If you don't get away from this tiger. So your immune system is affected, your digestion is affected. Mm-hmm. So if you don't fix that stress, then you're in trouble. Now, the opposite of the stress or the fight or flight is rest and digest. So listen to that. Rest and digest, right? And so how can I fix my stress? Seek expert counsel. Here's the to-do list. Here's the to-not-do list. How can I fix my sleep? Here's the to-do list. Here's the to-not-do list. The other 2 principles that I work on with this immunity thing is, number 1, it would be, number 3 would be diet. So it's molecular. So what are the molecules that I'm putting into my body on a daily basis, good or bad? And what are the molecules that I'm kicking out? What's my detoxification process, right? So that diet component is really, really important, along with 4 is physical movement. Right. And so the pragmatic advice that I'm receiving today is that I need to move all day long. So for example, every hour I have an alarm on my phone that says, get up and move. And so I go move for 5-10 minutes. And like right now, this is not good. Us sitting here talking like this is not good.
You're exactly right.
We're sitting here, we're sedentary to a degree, right? Even though we are talking and we're moving around, but it's not as good as getting out there and going for a brisk 5 to 10 minute walk every hour.
That's all it takes.
So it's optimizing sleep, optimizing stress mitigation, optimizing diet, good molecules versus bad molecules, and optimizing physical movement. And if I'm telling you right now, if you don't fix the first 2, sleep and stress, the diet and the physical movement, it's not going to matter. You have to fix those first 2.
Stress will kill you quicker than just about
anything else. I believe that.
And that's a good segue into something that I really, really want to talk about. And that is, because of where I am chronologically more than anything else, is aging gracefully, right? There's so much in our society about being younger, looking younger, feeling younger, being younger. And I've never bought into that. I've always been one, I just want to be healthy for my age, look my age, feel good for my age, right? For my age. I don't need to feel, I'm 63, I don't need to feel 33, right? If I feel like a good, healthy, physically fit 63-year-old man, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you want to live to be 122.
Yep.
How are you going to do that? How are you going to age gracefully into that? You're 65, you're going to be 66, right?
Yes.
So how do you age gracefully into 122?
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't want to age gracefully, so I hate to keep arguing, but I don't want to.
No. Listen, that's good. Yeah. I don't want you to agree with me. That's my thing.
I don't want to age gracefully. I want to age successfully. So
I love that. I love that. That's fantastic.
So pivot, right? Remember that?
Okay.
Right? Pivot. So I'm looking at myself as, to your point, 66 years old. So So 122, healthy, happy, terrific, relaxing years. Notice how I chose those words. 122, healthy, happy, terrific, relaxing years, right?
Yep.
And so I'm 66 years old, which means assuming I'm going to pull this off, I've got 56 years left, okay? So how am I going to age successfully during those 56 years, right? And here's the pivot. Here's the pivot. I seek expert counsel and I find out what's that to-do list look like for aging successfully. And what's that to not do list look like for aging unsuccessfully. And unfortunately in the great United States of America, and I love my country.
Absolutely,
I do.
Absolutely. We all do.
We're not doing a good job.
Right.
We're not aging successfully. So I look at the people
What are you sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's a very important distinction. So I said I want to age gracefully, you said age successfully. Now, in my mind, gracefully would be successful. Aging gracefully would be successful. What's the distinction between those two words and that concept for you?
Okay, so I look at it based on longevity, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, there's these zones in the world called the blue zones, and there's more centenarians, and I think I'm saying that correctly. I may not be, but people that are 100 years old in these blue zones than anywhere else on the planet, right? So let's start there. Okay, the average life expectancy in the United States of America for a male, for us today, is 79 years old. So there's a big gap between 79 and 100, right? 21 years.
Absolutely.
So the question becomes, okay, so what are this is the expert counsel. What are these people doing different? Yeah. And so I study them, right? So I don't want to age gracefully. To me, that's too nebulous. I want to age successfully.
Okay.
So when I study these people, I find out that they do 6 things, right? Sleep, stress mitigation, diet, physical movement, tribe, TRIBE. They grow their tribe. They work in their tribe. They honor their tribe. And I don't mean this from a point of view of, who are you spending time with? Who do you love? Who
not
loves
necessarily
you, right?
family, but who are you spending
family,
who
friends,
are you spending time with? Right.
Yeah, the world, right? So my tribe, and then the 6th thing that they do is is doing novel things. So they're always working on things that
staying active,
make
keeping
them
the mind
uncomfortable,
active.
right? Keeping the mind active, et cetera. And so now I've taken those 6 things, and I've developed my to-do list and my to-not-do list around those 6 things. And it's pretty comprehensive. So when you see what I'm doing, when we sat down there, what did I tell you? So I'm drinking this tea. Yep. It's oolong tea. Right here. Yeah. I said it also has this tea called gynostemma, which is an adaptogenic herb per se. That's in there. And I told you that I had a frother with me that I had to mix this up because there's still some adaptogens in there from my coffee that I had today. Yeah. Which is my coffee is lion's mane. It's cordyceps mushroom is in there. And so anyway, so I don't want to waste any of that. So you saw me do it. Yeah. Did the frother. Boom. So I'm working on what can I do to improve my chances of 122, healthy, happy, terrific, relaxing years. Probability, right? Yeah. So somebody said to me, this is an interesting conversation. This is a great conversation. Somebody says to me, I talked to my friend about your goal, and he wants to know if you're taking bets on that. And my comeback to him was, well, that's a sucker's bet. I said, here's my answer to you. So you're asking me the question right now. I say, Jamie, there's 8 billion people on the planet right now. Yep. There's one lady in the history of the planet that we know of that lived 122 years. The chances of me living to be 122 are basically slim and none. Okay?
So that's very true.
But let's back up a second. And here's the point. Okay. And I want you to really pause and think about this, okay? Can't I at least try?
Perfect. Yes.
Can't I at least try?
Right.
So here's the list. Here's the to-do list. Here's the not-to list. I got this goal in mind. And by the way, when you have a goal, does your reason why make you cry? If your reason why doesn't make you cry, then it gives me I got a massive chill right now. And so I'm going to tell you this story, but I'll get emotional. But so I'm going to ramble a little bit. But so I look at my granddaughter. So I have 9 grandchildren, right? Okay. Does your reason why make you cry? Does your reason why make you cry? 122, healthy, happy, terrific, relaxing.
I'm with you.
Does your reason why make you cry? So my granddaughter is 12 years old.
Okay.
So I'm at that time 64. Now I'm going to be 66. So let's just say 66. Let's say 30 years from now, I'm going to be 96 years old. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. 30 years from now, my granddaughter is going to be 42.
Okay.
Probability states that I'm probably going to have a great grandchild.
Sure.
Would you agree? Because I have 9
Absolutely.
grandchildren,
Absolutely.
so they're all going to be older, right?
Absolutely.
Probability states there will be a great grandchildren. Guess what, Jim? I don't want to miss that.
Well, I'm with you. You know, our youngest is going to be 3 in 2 weeks, right? My youngest granddaughter is going to be 3 in 2 weeks. So, again, when you look at how my age will be when she's 30, you know, so yeah, I get it. I get that.
Stay with that.
I feel that.
Stay with that. But it's not. I'm not done yet. So I want you to just think about this. Okay. So now I'm 96.
Okay.
And I'm here because I drank the tea. So I'm physically here. I've got a good brain, healthy, happy, terrific, relaxing years. I'm 96, healthy, happy, terrific, relaxing years. Okay, and so here we are, and I invite you to my house, right? And
Okay.
so you've been to my house.
Yeah.
Sir, we're sitting on the front porch, and we're looking out at the yard and the skyline and whatnot. And it's you and me, and you're also an old fart, by the way. So don't be. You know,
absolutely.
You're 93, right?
I'm with you.
So think about that. But if you don't drink the tea. No, if we're going to talk about probability states that guess who's not going to be there on that front porch? You.
Right.
Me.
No, that's true.
Right. Probability states that, right? So we're not going to be here, right?
Right.
So if we can do the right things, sleep, stress, diet, physical movement, growing the tribe, and doing novel things, perhaps we can increase our probability of being there. So let's assume we are here.
Sure.
So you're sitting there, I'm sitting there. My daughter, Katie, who is now 70 years old. Imagine that, Katie, 70, and Lila's 42, and I'm sitting there with my grandchild, grandson, granddaughter, and that makes me emotional. So when I have this goal of 122 healthy, happy, terrific years, I have to get emotional about it. Okay, and I have to think about what can stop that, the negative side of life, you know, right? The cancer, the heart disease.
So a lot of things can happen, sure.
A lot of things can happen. So I got to work on trying to.
A lot of detours on that journey.
Exactly, trying to do what I can to avoid the pitfalls, and if I have a pitfall, to do the pivot and everything. But so now I'm on that front porch, talking. I got a good brain. You're talking. You got a good brain because you took me up on the tee. Katie's good. Lila's good. We have this little baby, and my watch buzzes, and it says it's time to move. And I say, Jim, we got to move. So guess what? We can.
Yeah, right.
Holy cow, how cool is this? I get up. I said, we're going to go around a little circle here.
That's
you know,
exactly right.
And we walk
around there. We're good.
The thing goes off 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever. And we go back and we sit down and we continue our conversation.
Okay.
And here's the deal. I don't want to miss this. So back to the 122 healthy, happy, terrific years. So I'm 100 years old. Okay. I come and do a podcast with you. I'm 100, and we sit here, we do our podcast. I go home, I go for a walk in the woods.
You got to book that, Nick. Write that down.
I go for a walk in the woods with my wife. We come home. I come home from that. Please don't take this the wrong way. So I come home from that. We make love. Okay, at 100 years old. She's 98, and so I do that, and I get up and I take a shower, and I'm getting ready to play Scrabble with my wife. I'm in the shower, and I drop dead, flat in the shower. I'm dead, okay? Wait a second, Jim. What happened to 122? Did I succeed?
Yes.
Can't I at least go for it?
Yes. And here's
you see what I'm saying?
Here's another layer of that.
It's not the goal. It's what you become along the way.
You're exactly right. What you become along the way.
Can I at least try?
And who you take with you. Here's the thing, right? So that, to me, what you just described is success. Okay, no, you didn't get the 122.
No.
But you made a successful effort.
Probably won't.
Yeah, but that's
Probably
okay.
won't.
But here's the thing. Guess who might? Lila.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's watching you. She's watching you. She's following you. She's taking your expert counsel.
Earlier than I did.
Maybe she's the one that makes it to 122.
Absolutely.
Or maybe it's that little baby she carried up on the porch.
It's been done.
So, but that's the thing. That still makes your effort, your try successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question. Yeah.
So if I can sit there, our little one's Laura May, right? So if she's the one, if she outlives me by watching what I do, taking care of myself, if I make it to 100 and she makes it to 122,
man,
I had a good life.
But what a legacy.
Exactly.
What a legacy.
So that try will be successful if you do it. It's all about who you take with you on your journey.
Yeah.
It's not where you're going.
Yep.
It's who you take with you.
Yep.
That's amazing. I love that. So I saw an interview you did with Derek, okay, a podcast, and I want to ask you about him in that podcast as well. So you can probably, so you haven't touched alcohol, and that's why I said alcohol-free since '93.
Yeah.
Okay, and you alluded to an issue with alcohol at that time.
Yeah.
Which in our discussion, you've mentioned 1993 a couple of times. That was a kind of a seminal year,
it was.
a life-changing time for you. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So again, massive chill. These are their emotional moments, right? So
listen, and I'm getting that because I have a very similar journey from a different perspective, but the journey is very similar in transformation coming from a moment like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So March the 1st, 1993 was my day one for self-development.
Okay.
And I was in a very, very sad state. I hate to use the word depression because that's a very serious clinical situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to say I was sad. And I had this cassette tape. So I'm going to age myself, right? It was called The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy.
Okay.
And it was a promotional tape that I received at the dealership. Remember, I'm Mr. Arrogant, always have been.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't need self-help for. I'm Jim Shorkey. I'm the greatest guy ever. I don't
look around.
Need self-help. Yeah, look at me, man. I don't want to. So for some reason, I kept this tape. I took it home. I put it in the bathroom basket where all the little books are and stuff. And I left it there. And for some reason, my wife didn't throw it away, which my wife is she'll throw me away if I don't move fast enough, right?
Yeah, guaranteed.
So she's a very
I have one of those too.
Fastidious kind of a lady, and it was there. And so for whatever reason, I'm very sad. And on March the 1st, 1993 was a Sunday. And I got this, and Amy and the kids went to church. That was their thing. She would go to church. They go to Sunday school, and I would sleep in. I'm in the car business. I would sleep in. And so I get up. They're not even there. I get up. For some reason, I go in the bathroom. I get this tape. I put it in, and I play it. And I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. Listened to it a couple times. Brian Tracy, it was just one tape. It was a promotional tape. And if you remember those things, they came in a book, and there were 6 cassette tapes in the book along with a workbook. I don't know anything about this. I just know this little tape, one tape. So I played it a couple times. I had Amy listen to it, and man, I'm jacked up, right? So I go into the dealership the next day. I've got the cassette in my hand. I said to my team, I said, I don't know what this is. I said, but I can tell you things are going to change for me going forward. So my mom was kind of a guru on these kind of things. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about Nightingale Conan or anything like that. But I said, Mom, do you know anything about this? And so she was a flea market kind of a person. She would go to the flea market and she would buy stuff, and she just liked doing that. And so she had this tape series, which was the vinyl book with 6 tapes in it along with a workbook. And it was Dennis Waitley, The Psychology of Winning.
Okay.
Not the psychology of winning. So I never forget, it had a $5 price tag on it. And I said, Mom, let me pay you up. She said, nah, she wouldn't let me pay her. So anyways, I started listening to this thing. And I wore this thing out. Well, that hooked me up with Nightingale Conan. And I started buying stuff and books and all that. So I got involved with that, right? And so I have a decided drinking problem. Absolutely, positively. I only ever had 2 beers in my entire life. The first one and the last one, and I didn't count the 8 or 9 in between, right? Was arrested for drunk driving 2 times, spent the night in jail 1 time of those 2, had a bad accident with drunk driving. I was a criminal, right? And so
we've all been there.
But I'm doing this thing with self-development, and it's like, as I'm doing it, it's like, well, here's self-development, this going this way, here's drinking. So they're on divergent paths, right? And so as the year went on, I started to kind of recognize this within myself that I do have this drinking problem. And I started to just gradually over that year, I started to bring it back. To cut it back, I should say. And but I still wasn't there. I still didn't think of myself as having a drinking problem. I never did. So on December 26, 1993, December 26, 1993, I'm sitting at my mother-in-law's house. I've got a beer in one hand and a glass of wine in the other hand. I'm sitting in front of the fireplace. Sounds like a guy with a drinking problem.
Maybe.
So I'm sitting, maybe. Glass of wine, beer and wine. I was like, okay, Jim, do you need 2 at the same time? So anyways, my wife comes up to me and I said, honey, tomorrow I'm going to stop drinking. And I'm going to try to stop drinking I'm going to stop drinking for 30 days. I don't think I even said try. I'm going to stop drinking for 30 days. And I think I did say try, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
so anyways,
yeah.
and she was actually mad at me because she knew I was full of crap. There's no way I was going to do this. Well, the fact is I did do it. So I went 30
Good for
days,
you.
no
Yeah.
alcohol of any kind. I said, well, I'm going to try for another 30 days. So I went for another 30 days. And I don't know, my wife knows the story better than I do, but somewhere between the second 30 and the third 30, because I kept going,
Right.
I'm in the driveway. We have a minivan. I'm in the driver's seat. Amy's putting our young son, Daniel, in the baby seat, and the kids are in the back seat. So it will be Katie, Jimmy, Russell, and Daniel. And he's just a baby. And so I'm backing out of the driveway, and my daughter, Katie, says to me, and she's the oldest, right? She says, Dad, she says, I'm really proud of you that you're not drinking. And it makes me emotional. So give me a minute here. So I said, I couldn't believe it. Like it just shocked the hell out of me.
How old
right?
was she at that point?
12.
12 years
12
old.
years old, right.
And she picked up on that. She noticed it.
She noticed it, yeah. So she says, Dad, I'm so proud of you. You're not drinking. It always bothered me when you drank. And I'm like,
powerful.
What? I put the car in park. I'm in the middle of the road. It's a neighborhood, like we live now, like a cul-de-sac type thing.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the road. Put the car in park. I said, Katie, what did you just say? She says, I'm really proud of you for not drinking. It always bothered me when you drank. And Katie kind of has a way of getting into putting it right into my heart, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, Katie, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I never meant to hurt you. I said, tell you what, kid, I promise you I'll never drink again. And I never did. And that promise grew into a swell. But the thing is that when you're in the circle of drinking, okay, you don't know how bad it is because you're in that circle.
Yeah, and you always think you're in control.
You think you're in control, but one drink leads to two, leads to three.
Yes.
And so you just, it's like I made a bad decision. I'm having this first drink. First drink means the second decision is going to be slightly inebriated. Well, I'll have one more. And then it's next thing you know, it's 10. But you don't really see it that way, right? So once I got outside the circle for that 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and again, this is not advice to anybody, this is what I did.
Sure.
So, but I started looking.
That's all we can do.
Yeah, I started looking back on the circle though, on that situation, and thought, man, Jim, you had a problem. And so focusing on the negative of the problem is like, well, I don't want to go back to. Promise Katie, and I just kept working at it day by day, week by week, month by month, 1 year, 2 years, 2 years, 3 years, and again, here we are now. This is 2022. So that was 1993. So this is 29 years. And I'll tell you a story that really made me cry. It made me cry. I'm on vacation this past summer, and I'm a big kombucha fan. I love kombucha. So I'm in this place, and I see they have kombucha. I want to buy a kombucha, and they had this kombucha called hard kombucha. And my wife says to me, she said, Jim, that's alcoholic. And I'm looking at this can because kombucha by its nature is, to an extent, alcoholic. Now it's less than 1%, but still it is. Yeah,
there's some fermentation there.
Fermentation, exactly.
Sure.
Which I drink kombucha all the time. I'm not concerned about that. So I get this can of kombucha, and it's called hard kombucha. So I'm outside of this place. I'm on vacation. I'm sitting on a bench, and I'm drinking this can of kombucha, and I look this can over with a fine-tooth comb. I look at the can. It's freaking alcohol. I was devastated. So I literally went and got a cup that I have, a measuring cup, and I dumped this can into the measuring cup, because I knew it was 12 ounces. Dumped in a measuring bottle, one of those shaker bottles.
Yeah.
So it came out that I drank 4 ounces of this thing. I actually kept it for that reason, and I was devastated because I felt so. I broke a promise per se, unintentionally, but still, promise is a promise, right? Promise is a promise. So I immediately called Katie. And I told her what happened. I was crying. I was upset because I said, hey, I didn't know. And she said, Dad, you're good, man. You're good. You're good. Yeah. We know where your heart is. We know, then I call my son. My son's also one of my really, really, my oldest son. Like, we're really tight on these kind of things. And it's like, I don't have it in me to violate a promise I made to my daughter. So I talked to all my children about this, and I kind of from an apologetic perspective. But the point is, though, that's the journey, right?
That's the journey.
When I stopped drinking, I actually read your post this morning, and I wrote a note to you that said things get better when I get better.
I saw it. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about you, only me. Things get better when I get better.
Right.
And so with the alcohol, things get better when I get better. Yeah. And so everything got better. Alcohol is a depressant, first of all.
It is.
Yeah, doesn't belong in our bodies. It really doesn't.
Absolutely.
And so things got better. And so that's the story. That's the story of a part of the story of me reclaiming myself.
Yeah. And the thing I love about your message and what you do with results from thinking and just in general, your life message is that you don't preach. You don't tell anybody what to do. You share your story.
Right.
What happened to you and how you dealt with it and how it worked for you.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to give that a shot and or tweak it so that it fits
Absolutely,
them, that's great. And I do the same thing. If you read my blog, I don't ever say you should do this.
Yeah.
I will say I did this. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
Right? This happened to me and here's what I did.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody gets something out of that.
Right.
And I think so. But at the end of the day, we're not in the business of telling people what to do or how to live their lives.
No.
Right?
No.
But we're sharing our experiences on our journey.
Correct.
Right? So I love that. And I'm going to ask you something that I think is going to be incredibly personal. And if it's not someplace you want to go, we won't go there. But I'd like for you to tell me about Hannah.
Yeah, that's a sad story. Yeah,
I know it is, and I can tell. And if this is not the right platform for that,
this is the perfect platform.
This is something that I know is deep for you.
Deep.
And I saw you posted a little video the other day, and it almost made me cry.
Yeah.
And being a father and a grandfather and all of those things, I would be honored if you would share that story.
Sure. So Hannah and Jessica are sisters. Mm-hmm. My sister Catherine, who is my youngest sister, these are her two daughters, Hannah and Jessica. Jessica being the oldest, Hannah being the youngest. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very, very close with both of them. Mm-hmm. They're just great kids. They're great people. Spend a lot of time with them.
Okay.
Love these two girls, right? So Hannah was a very, very serious water girl, boater, loved everything about water. And so she had her own boat, and she was out on Labor Day weekend, and she and her, I don't think they were engaged yet, but they were clearly going to get married.
Okay.
And so they're out on the boat along with some friends, and the boat hit a sandbar. The tides had shifted, boat hit a sandbar. She was ejected from the boat and run over.
Oh, geez.
And so they got her to the hospital, but she died at the hospital, right? And so it was just devastating. It was devastating, devastating. Devastating for Dave Ash and Kathy Ash, who's my brother-in-law, my sister. Devastating for Jessica. Devastating for the whole Shorkey family. Just devastating. Like this girl was 23 years old, full of hope, full of promise, just a wonderful girl. And if you find her online, you'll see that. And there's some videos that my sister has posted and whatnot. And this is not one of those situations that we can say, well, hey, we can make something out of this of a positive nature. We can't. There are things in life that we can't turn into positive. We can do the best we can to try to make somewhat of a legacy, but it doesn't bring Hannah back. And it's very, very sad. And so they do have a legacy called Inspired by Hannah, along with so that's mainly Catherine and Jessica, and then my brother-in-law, Dave Ash. These people are saints. They really are. And so they have a tide management device that they've been working on and developing, and it's check the tide before you ride is what they call it. And you can find us. You can find us online. Okay. Check the tide before you ride. The site for Hannah is Inspired by Hannah, and these two things are connected. That's more Dave's mission, the tide thing, and the idea behind Inspired by Hannah is they want to create a venue or a format for where these young ladies can get advice on stuff that we're not teaching our kids today. How to do a proper interview, how to do a proper email, how to respond in the right way with texting and all the stuff that. And how to dress for an interview and how to act during.
It's
interviews.
Amazing. I took a look at it, and
did you?
It's powerful. Yeah. I mean, when I listened to what you said, and I went and I took a look, and it's a powerful thing, and that in itself is something that is. It's a family legacy, but it's also Hannah's legacy, right? Because of who she was and how she lived her life. At such a young age, she seemed like a wonderful human being.
Was. And again, another major chill going through my body. But so we can't bring Hannah back, and that's very sad for all of us.
Sure, absolutely.
We love this young lady. We can't bring her back. But that said, what can we do as human beings to make the very best of an incredibly incredibly sad moment. What can we do to make the best of it? And so that's where Inspired by Hannah and Check the Tie Before You Ride has come about. And so if nothing else, we're honoring Hannah, and we're if you think about it, if we could help this one. Within the realm of results from thinking and RethinkU and all the things we do with Derek Kelly and myself, it's my idea is not to help the multitudes. It's not, and that may happen, but my idea is to help one very important person.
Right.
And if I can do that, that brings me incredible joy. And if it becomes two, twice the joy. 10 times the joy, 100, or a million, right?
Exactly.
But as soon as I start, because this is Jim Shorkey speaking, as soon as I start focusing on the million, now I turn into Jim Shorkey competitor, Jim Shorkey competition. I can do it. Yeah. So I don't want that. I've already done that, been there, done it with the automobile business very successfully. But this is about one very important person in front of me right now. Right. What can I do to have an influence on that person? So back to the story with Hannah, if we can even influence 1 or 10 or 100 or a million, then that would at least bring us some sense of solace to a horrible situation. 20 years from now, I'm going to be sad.
Sure.
Because of Hannah. I am.
Absolutely.
Because of what happened to Hannah. I should say not because of Hannah, but what happened to Hannah. It never goes away.
You'll always
never goes away. And so it's another one of those things that
But if you prevent one accident from happening, right?
And it's not me, by the way. I want to be clear. It's Dave Ash. Yeah, so you're right.
If his initiative prevents one accident, if one young lady gets the job of her life, her dream job, because of that, that is something that the family can hold on to.
Yes.
You know, but like I said, you anytime you think of her, you're going to have that moment of sadness.
It makes me sad. Makes me sad, yeah.
I get that with my father. You know, my father's been gone 5 years now, almost 6. And, you know, we were very close, and he was my first and most influential mentor in my life.
Awesome.
So, you know, and to this day, almost 6 years later, things will happen. I want to pick the phone up and call him and tell him, or ask him a question. Right? It happens.
Agreed.
And I'm sure you feel the same thing about your father, and he's been gone a long time.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you lose somebody that significant in your life, you never really can replace that or make that that feeling go away. But you can honor that person and take it forward. And I think you guys have done that in just a magnificent way. You know, and just as I said, just listening not too much to the words that you said, but how you said them. You could feel the impact.
Yeah.
You could feel the impact that's from your heart. So that was powerful. And I appreciate you sharing that story, because that's something that I hope everybody just take a quick look at Google Inspired by Hannah and take a look at that, because it's a powerful story. It really is.
It is. It really is.
And so before we close out, results from thinking. Okay. How did that come about, and what is your mission for that?
So, you know, in my journey, I had great mentors, and so I did what the mentors told me to do, and that was Mr. Hamilton, my dad's former partner, great car dealer, very wealthy. So I did what he told me to do.
I remember his commercials too, Mr. Ham.
Ham good deals.
Ham good deals.
Ham good deals. Yeah. And so, Mr. Hamilton, I went to Chrysler Financial at that time, which was the finance arm of Jeep. I went to GMAC, which was the financial arm of Oldsmobile. I went to NADA, which is our group training for National Auto Dealers Association.
Oh, okay.
I went to them.
Sure.
I went to my CPA. I went to Al-Azhar of S&T Bank. I joined think tanks. I just kept repeating this theme of seek expert counsel, right?
Right.
And so I became incredibly successful. And so when you're successful like that, you get a lot of hugs and pats on the back and trophies and you're the greatest ever and blah, blah, blah. And I knew it wasn't true. I really, in my heart of hearts, I knew that it wasn't me. All I was doing was following the advice of experts. And so I felt very concerned that I needed to acknowledge the fact that it wasn't me, it was the mentors, right? And so that was the thought in my mind. And I had this idea way back. I'm still in the car business, still very successful, doing very well. But I thought someday I'm going to start this company, and it's going to be the idea would be give a woman a fish and she eats for one day. Teach that very same woman how to fish, and she eats for a lifetime. And so I thought, okay, I had these mentors.
I love that you said woman too.
Well, it's true.
It is true. It is absolutely true.
So, and that is actually a famous quote by a guy's name is Maimonides or something like that. It's an odd name. Anyways, so I thought someday I'm going to do this. Well, 2016 rolls around. The kids, there's 4 children in the business. They're each one of them smarter than I am, and I don't mean that to be self-deprecating. They, in fact, are smarter than I am. There's 4 of them, and I remember that my dad was the type of guy that just never. My dad died in the saddle. He was not willing to let me do my thing. He was doing his thing, and he wouldn't let me do that. So let's just leave that off to the side. So my dad died in the saddle, and I could see that I was doing the same thing. And I'll never forget it. I'm sitting in the office with my son in the sales office, and he's working a deal. And I said, hold on, Jim, what? I think maybe you should do this. And he turned at me and looked at me with laser beam eyes. And I'm like, and I thought to myself, Jim, you're doing the same thing that your dad did to you.
Yeah.
I got up and I walked out gracefully, and I never went back to that sales office again. I never went back in again. And that's when I started to think, you know what, Jim, you gotta get out of the way. And so that's what I did. And so 2016, I'm 59 years old. 2016, 59, and I went into with my attorneys and estate planning and all that. And long story short, the children. I'm not going to get into the details, but the children now own that business 100%. Independent of myself and Amy, and I'm not involved. And I got out, and so I got out, and I thought, okay, it's time to go. It's time to start this little thing. And so that was the genesis of results from thinking. Think and grow rich. Success through a positive mental attitude, as a man thinketh. So the thinking part of it is always in there. And if we get the right thinking, so it comes down to thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions, actions create results. Thoughts, feelings, action, results.
Sure.
That's the formula, right? Okay. And so that's where we got results from thinking. But thinking is not enough. Thinking is just one part of it. You got to get into action. And so RethinkU is a course that we developed that says very simply, James, where are you right now? What's your end game today? Where are you? Here's where I'm at. Well, your thinking got you to where you're at right now. Are you happy with where you're at right now? And you would say, no, I'm actually not happy. I want to change that. Well, in order to change that, you got to rethink you.
Well,
you got to rethink you. You got to change your thinking.
The person that comes to that, finds their way to that, is just by the act of seeking that out, is not happy with where they are.
Right.
And they want to make a change. They want to make a change for the better.
Or maybe, but also in defense of the results, it might be that on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say you look at your results across those 6 items I mentioned earlier. You know, sleep, stress reduction, diet, physical movement, your tribe, and your novel thoughts, novel actions, novel thoughts. So across those 6 things, you say, you know what? On a scale of 1 to 10, all 6, I feel like I'm an 8. And I would say to you, that's pretty darn good, James.
It's not bad.
Good work, right? That's a good number. But you know what? I really think I can move it to a 9. I'm your guy. I can help you get it to a 9.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you're a failure. No, you might be a 0. You might jump on that scale this morning and say, holy crap, man, I weigh too much. And so that would also be an opportunity. Can we improve our results? And in order to improve our results, we first have to start with our thinking. So we have to rethink ourselves, which leads us to establishing goals, reasons why to make us cry, seeking expert counsel to get the steps, and then developing the methodology to do the steps every single day. And does that mean we're going to get the steps done every single day? Of course it doesn't. But how close can we get to 100%? And we're always preaching that. And sometimes we have our bad day. And so one of the things we talk about in RethinkU 2.0 is my journey always begins today. So yesterday's over. Okay, can't go back and change it. Tomorrow hasn't happened yet. So my journey begins today. So I got these lists.
Yep.
Yesterday I didn't do good. I did some of the stuff I shouldn't be doing and didn't do enough. So today's a new day, and today I'm going to dedicate myself to 100%. I'm going to do everything on my to-do list. I'm not doing anything on my to-not-do list.
Okay.
And how close did I get at the end of the day? I call that discipline journaling. And so I have 20 items, and I got 17 out of 20. Good work, Jim.
Good day. Yeah,
good day.
That's a good day.
I got 10 out of 20. Not so good, but yesterday I only got 5. Yeah. So I doubled my disciplines. I improved. Right. So at the beginning of our day at RethinkU 2.0, the beginning of our day, my journey always begins today. Rise and shine. Mean it. Mean it. So I'm going to shine today. Got my to-do list, got my to-not-do list. I'm going to shine today. I go to work on it. And am I making progress? So we start the day off with perfection. We're doing all 20. At the end of the day, we do an analysis. I got 15, I got 10, whatever number is, I compare it to yesterday, like I did better. And by disciplined journaling, I know what I did yesterday, page 1. This is now page 2. I made progress. It's interesting with this philosophy, your brain doesn't like the gaps. Your brain, everybody's brain, doesn't like losing, doesn't like the gaps. So we're taking personal responsibility. We're documenting what we did. And the brain says, even though you're not beating yourself up, we don't want you beating yourself up, but your brain says, what about those other 10, Jim? Like, what's going on? So maybe next day we get 9, step back. Next day we get 11. And eventually over time, what happens is with the ebb and flow of life, instead of being 5 out of 10 average for the first week, it goes to 7 out of 10.
Sure.
And then it's like, I did 7 out of 10 average. 8 out of 10, because the brain always wants to get better, right?
Always want to get better, like, see progress, forward progress.
Are you a walker?
Yeah.
So did you ever walk to a certain point, turn around, walk back, and you say, okay, I did good. And the next day you walk a little further and you turn and walk back? The next day, do you turn around at the original turnaround point, or you go to the new one?
No, I go to the next one.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I go past. Yeah.
Or maybe
you always
not,
want to go a little bit farther.
But you don't
take another couple of steps.
So this is the stop sign. And this is the driveway, the neighbor's driveway. So we usually stop at a stop sign, but today we're going to go a little further. I guarantee you, you're not going to go back to the stop sign. You're going to go to the driveway the next time. And so eventually you're walking, where you were walking a mile today and hobbling. Now you're walking 5 miles, and it's like, you feel great.
And you feel great.
That's progression, right?
Yes.
Versus perfection. So we start with perfection and we close with progress, right? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. So how do people find this program? Where do we go to find the program?
Resultsfromthinking.com. We're on Facebook, so I'm a neophyte when it comes to the technology aspect of it. So that's, you mentioned Derek Kelly. So, but I believe if you just dial in right now, go to Facebook and download Results from Thinking, and I think
it'll come up.
Yeah, we have a site in there. We have a group, called Goal Achievers Community, which there's 1,700 members in that community.
Okay.
And we want to teach people how to achieve goals, right? We want to be goal achieving pros, okay? And so there's 3 aspects.
Yeah.
There's 3 aspects of this thing. There's Results from Thinking, which is the little company. And then there's RethinkU, which is that's RethinkU 2.0.
That's the program.
That's the program, which is a video format, workbook. I do most of the teaching, but we do have a testimonial part of it where some people that are really tuned into, because the people that do RethinkU, they have success beyond their wildest imaginations. So they're teaching as well. So we have the testimonial / teaching, and then just pure raw testimonials, and then the workbook. And actually, my good friend Chuck Bellina, who was with me at the beginning, he died. He died he had colon cancer metastasized into his liver, and it took him out at 51. But too young, way too young. And so he actually is in the video from the. So we had an original program called RethinkU. This is RethinkU 2.0. But I said to Derek Kelly, I said, can we get Chuck in there? And he thought that he could and all that. So I got the program. When we did, I got it. And I'm one guy that I'm not asking you to do the program. I did the program, right?
Right.
Went through the whole thing. And when it came to Chuck teaching, I cried. I massively cried. I couldn't handle it. Because Chuck is a close friend. We met literally every day. I can tell you stories about that, but there's not time. But so Chuck is in there, and Steve Gardner, who's been with me, thought I was nuts at the beginning, and says, "You're great. This guy's nuts." But then I'll wear you out. I'll wear you down. I'm a grinder, man. I'll wear you down.
That's
and so
good.
he started doing what I asked him to do, and he's just knocking it out of the park. Because all I'm doing is teaching what I was taught. That's it.
Yeah.
And so
again, you're not preaching. You're just sharing experience.
I feel like I feel honestly, that if I take this information to the grave with me, that I would be the most selfish guy on the planet.
True story.
I really believe that. I really, really do.
True story.
Not happening.
And I love that. Okay, so closing thought. What do you want to leave with our 4 viewers who are tuned into this? So what's Jim Shorkey's message to the masses? What do you want to leave with?
If I can do what I did, anybody can do what I did.
Okay.
Anybody can do it. Granted, I was in the car business, but you're in the insurance business, or you're an engineer. So can you move that needle in the engineering business like I moved the needle in the car business? That's going to be all about, again, back to that expert counsel, figuring out what the steps are and then following the steps. But if I can do this, anybody can do this. I'm working on improving my health. Because I was an idiot and arrogant in the automobile business, I have health consequences, right?
Sure.
And I do want to leave. I just thought, I wanted to say this earlier and I got sidetracked. But So back to the whole aging successfully.
Okay.
All right. So the life expectancy of us guys in the United States of America is 79. Now, I'm 66 years old, let's say, right? So if I make significant changes in my life, right, and I end up moving that number from 79 to 89, okay? So my question for the 4 listeners, to use your message, my question for those 4 listeners would be, what would you do with those extra 10 years?
Oh my goodness, yes.
How many churches would you build?
Right.
How many books would you write?
Perfect.
How many young people would you mentor? How many times would you go on vacation? A good friend of mine said to me the other day, you can't get more time. I said, oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
And I said to him, so how long are you going to live for? He said, my goal's 78. I said, man, you're not even going for the average. What's that all about? I said, well, let me just, okay, so we'll go with 78. I'm not here to beat you up, but I said, I'm going to give you some ideas about how we can get that to 88. What would you do with those extra 10 years?
Absolutely. Because listen, where you and I are sitting right now, 79, we can see it from here.
Yeah,
it's right there.
It's right there, yeah.
It's not that far away.
We're on the wrong side of the sundial.
That's exactly right.
I'm
not accepting that.
Yeah, we're on the wrong side of the sundial. So yeah, at 79, that's only 13 years from now for me. And it's like, so I want that, even if it was an extra year. This is the part that people get lost in, is like, well, 122, healthy, happy, terrific years. My message is, can't I at least try? And in trying,
absolutely,
if I get to 81, my father died at 63.
That's crazy.
I picked up 18 years. Right. I did get to see my grandchildren. Obviously, I wouldn't see the great-grandchildren, but I tried. Can't I at least try? So that's my message to the audience.
You tried.
What would you do with the extra time if you approach life differently from a choice perspective, lifestyle choice perspective? What would you do with the extra time? And I think that's what critical thinking and deep thinking is really all about, is, really thinking about it. And so when we talk about endpoints, and again, the message in our field of self-development is, well, the end point is dead at 63. Don't think about that.
Yeah.
Says who? Says who?
Yeah.
Why do you put a seatbelt on when you jump in a car? Oh, you're going to cause an accident. What's not true? It's just not true. If I think about Chuck Bellina and how sad that was for me, or Hannah, or my father, I miss my father every day. Every single day I miss my dad. I would love to be able to talk to him again. He died at 63. So I've already got, and by the way, I'll tell you truthfully, when I got to 63, 62 and a half, I was very concerned about that. It was in my head, like, oh yeah, like my dad died at 63, and it was in my head.
My grandfather died at 67, and my father, he was on borrowed time. He lived to be 84, but he was on borrowed time the entire time. Yeah, in his mind.
Yeah, you told me.
I mean, he carried that with him. That was serious for him.
So there you go. What's more important, the negativity of life or the positivity of life? I think we can do both.
I agree.
That's a great way to close.
I agree.
I think we can do both.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. This was exactly as I had hoped. Thank you.
And so just so you know, now you have COVID.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, man.